I've been coming either living or as a renter or an owner of a house for 35 years here in Malibu. And those of you who have been in Malibu for that length of time, I don't have to tell you the changes that we've seen take place in this very small seaside community. And we got out here and we started becoming appalled at what we're seeing in the Civic Center. You can't find a place to park. The PCH is gridlocked. I mean, and the idea that it could possibly get worse. And we discovered that in a couple of years, there's going to be a sewer system. Well, that opens the door to a lot more development, possibly. And we started doing some looking into what was going on here in Malibu and getting a little bit of a tutorial from people who have been fighting very hard for many years. The people are sitting in this room. There's Ozzie Silman, I see John Mazza, Steve Uring, where's Jay? Jay, where are you? Right over here, we're standing next to that's my wife Michelle, by the way. See Betty and Veronica over here. See Betty and Veronica, the dark and the warm. Lucy and Ethel, yeah. Anyway, and Jay and John and everybody came and started educating us as to what was actually going on. And what we discovered is that right in the Civic Center alone, there's 1 million square feet of land that is undeveloped at this point. And it is ripe for development, it is zoned for commercial development, and if left unchecked, what we have seen up till now, we'll see more of the same, is my fear. Now, to give you a perspective of this, most of you, you're very familiar with, I mean, I was coming out here when it was the Colony Market. Remember the Colony Market? And now it's Ralph's, and I remember it was the Colony Market, and there was that one little coffee shop. What was the name of it? Colony Coffee Shop, yeah, exactly. They were very original there. We had the Colony and the Colony Market. Anyway, that was all that was there. That was in that whole area. And that area is now, completely developed, and it is about 100,000 square feet, that development right there. What we're talking about is 10 of those is now open space and could be developed. That's very frightening to those of us who want to preserve and protect this community. I'm going to read you something because I think it speaks volumes as to where the planners and the original thinkers in this city, when it became a city back in, I think it was 91. Was it 91 when it became? 91, yeah. When it became a city in 91, huh? Hey, Dick, how you doing? There's Dick Van Dyke, who I saw the other day with my dad, and you guys were great. You guys were great, yeah. They did a thing at the Jewish, the synagogue, and my dad signed books and stuff, and they told us. And then he did a thing where you told a story, and then he made you do it better. He told it better. I don't know what that was. Anyway. This I'm going to read to you because I think it's important that you understand what was intended by the people who were in charge of preserving and protecting Malibu at that time, and you can see and decide for yourself if we have lived up to this. This is the Malibu General Plan, Vision, and Mission Statement, and this was written, by the way, by many of the people who are opposed to Measure R. These are the people who helped draft this. Malibu is a unique land and marine environment and residential community whose citizens have historically evidenced a commitment to sacrifice urban and suburban conveniences in order to protect that environment and lifestyle, and to preserve unaltered natural resources and rural characteristics. The people of Malibu are a responsible custodian of the area's natural resources for present and future generations. Malibu will plan to preserve its natural and cultural resources, which include the ocean, marine life, tide pools, beaches, creeks, canyons, hills, mountains, ridges, views, wildlife, and plant life, open spaces, archaeological, paleontological, and historic sites, as well as other resources that contribute to Malibu's special natural and rural setting. This is the one that gets me. Malibu will maintain its rural character by establishing programs and policies that avoid suburbanization and commercialization of its natural and cultural resources. So, all Measure R does is live up to this. That's all it does. It's a very simple measure, and I'm going to throw it open to questions, but all it does, really, is it says to the voters and the residents of Malibu, any development over 20,000 square feet has to be run by you. You have a right to decide what happens on that land. Now, if you feel comfortable with the way things have evolved and the way things have developed here in Malibu, then you should vote no on R. But if you're not, if you're uncomfortable with the way in which what you've seen happen over the last number of years, then this will be your last chance to have any kind of say or control over what happens in the undeveloped spaces. So that's what it does. The other thing it does is it limits chain stores to 30%. That's it. And you're going to hear a lot of other things from the other side, and I'd love to hear from people who have questions about it, are confused about it. But I've been running a lot of campaigns. I've worked with a lot of really smart constitutional lawyers. There's nothing in this initiative that is illegal or that doesn't comport with existing laws in Malibu and throughout the state. So we feel very comfortable with it. We're, even the city attorney, even that quote-unquote impartial judge and the city attorney, even she said this is a defensible law, that she would be comfortable defending this law. So let me throw it open to questions. I see a young man here. See, everybody to me is younger than me. You may be the same. How old are you? Oh, I got an older person. 72.
Let me just say that
yes.
These are going to be questions.
Yeah.
If you give a speech, I'm going to cut you off.
Ooh, we've got the moderator Nazi here. Okay. No, but yeah, any questions you want to ask, I'm happy. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a very happy childhood. Could you talk a little bit about what I've been seeing in the papers and on the internet, the disinformation campaign that's going on right now from the Vote No people? Can you tell us about that and why? What'd you think of it?
Well, I mean, it's politics. Politics, there's always a lot of disinformation. When a side is trying to win, they do whatever they can to win. It is historically much, much easier to get a no vote on something than it is to get a yes vote. Because to get a no vote, all you have to do is confuse the voters, tell them that there's something dangerous in it or it's going to hurt people in Malibu, whatever. To get a yes vote, you have to counteract those things and then say why it's good. Now, one of the things that always strikes me as funny, because the big argument that you get on the other side, and we can cover all of the negative things that they have to say, and I can discuss them with you. But one of my favorite things is they say, well, this is going to create much more development. There's going to be more development and more chain stores. And I'm saying, well, then you should vote for this thing because you're the developers. So if it's in fact going to do that, you're making my life easy. I don't have to raise the money and put on a campaign. You can just go vote for it. So on the face of it, that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, to say that it's going to create more, to say that you have a right to vote on what's going to be in your community, it's going to create more development is very, very strange. And there's some other issues that they bring up, and if you want to talk about any of those, I'm happy to talk about them. Yeah.
I'd just like to expand on that a little bit. Do we know for certain that it's sober operating, but then why is he allowed to use the Chamber of Commerce legal mailing address as the source of all the negative campaigns?
Hey, did everybody hear that question?
No.
Yeah, why don't you repeat it so that they can hear?
I understand that the negative campaigns are all being financed supposedly by Soberock, but what we're seeing is the legal mailing address for the Malibu Chamber of Commerce is the one that's attached to every single mailer, including all emails, all Facebook posts, and I find it telling.
Well, let me talk about that. Yes, as far as we know, Steve Soboroff is the main funder for the No on Our campaign, as far as we can tell. His name is not on, you see, let me explain how campaign finance works in terms of taking out ads. Whenever you see an ad, either in a newspaper or on TV or a mailer that you might get in the mail, anything that you see, it will say paid for by, and then it lists the thing. Now, the way it works is whoever pays the most money, whoever is spending the most, is listed first. That's a campaign law. So if you'll notice, on all of Steve Soboroff's, or we assume it's Steve Soboroff, I believe it is his money, it says paid for by voter education something, Whole Foods and the Park LLC. So I thought that was kind of curious, because I thought, Whole Foods, is a good supermarket, it's a reputable company. I thought, are they gonna really wanna pay for a political campaign to try to stop the people of Malibu from having a say? I wouldn't think, if I were owning a company, I wouldn't think I would do that. So we called the people over at Whole Foods and we asked them. We said, first what we asked, we said, do you understand that, your name is on all the campaign literature and that you're supporting No on Measure R? And the first response we got was, well, we didn't know anything about it. They didn't know, they didn't know. So then we said, well, you should know that it's there, and we're seeing your name listed first, so we're assuming that you are funding the No on Our campaign. So we said, well, they'll get back to, this was a PR person. I then talked to the president of the Western Division of Whole Foods, had a good conversation with him, and in fact, he would love to have a Whole Foods in Malibu. He wasn't lying about that. He said, yeah, I'd love to have a Whole Foods. He knew about Steve Soboroff. They knew they had conversations. But he said, we don't get involved in political campaigns. We don't at all. We never have, we never will. And he said, now you're telling me this, we're gonna have to issue some kind of statement or something. Subsequently, they did issue a statement saying that Whole Foods takes no position on Measure R. We're not for, we're not against, and no money from Whole Foods has funded any of the No on Our campaign, and has asked Steve Soboroff to take that name off of his campaign. To this day, his name is still on it. If you look in the Malibu Times today, you'll notice there's an ad, again, another one of our favorite things is that we're gonna somehow destroy urgent care, which is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard in my life. But they've put it out there, it's a scare tactic to get you to, if you vote for Measure R, somehow, you won't be able to go to a doctor, and, you'll have to limp along the BCAs with blood dripping from it. Geez, I wish there was somebody that could take care of me, but nobody. At any rate, his name is still on there, so he still hasn't taken his name off. So that's the answer to that question about Steve Soboroff. But we do believe that Steve is the one, I understand, that is funding the No on Our campaign.
Can we do something about that other than talking to other residents? Can we call Whole Foods and register complaints as well?
Well, yeah, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you're free, you can do whatever you want. I mean, listen, like I say, if I was Whole Foods, I wouldn't want, and I actually mentioned this to the guy when I had the conversation with him. I said, look, I don't want to tell you what to do here, but 2,300 people signed the petition to get this on the ballot. That's a lot of residents. There's only 13,000 people in Malibu, only 8,000 vote. You got a lot of people that would be very mad to think that you were funding a campaign like this. And that's not to say you can't have Whole Foods, because there's nothing in Measure R that says that you can't have Whole Foods. As a matter of fact, supermarkets are exempt. So that's an exempt. You could have it if he wants it. It just has to be put in front of the voters. If the voters decide we'd like to have a Whole Foods and the park or whatever, then vote for it. That's as simple as that. We're not saying you can't have Whole Foods, and he understood that, the guy understood that. Anything else? Yeah, back there.
You know,
Speak loud, because I don't think this stretches all the
I
way.
can project. It seems odd to me that when you talk about the residents' opposition, that's one thing, but what really raises suspicion is the city council's opposition, the members of the city council. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you have to think that they're on the take if they oppose it, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's simply putting this to a democratic vote, which it should be. And what's your view on that? The city council?
Well, I mean, listen, every elected official is allowed to take a position, pro or con. I mean, Skylar Peak, who's our current mayor, has come out in favor of Measure R. So, and we have some former mayors who have come out in favor of it. But everybody's allowed to take a position. I would not be, it would not be fair of me to subscribe what kind of motives anybody has to opposing Measure R. That's up for people to dig into and whatever. I don't know. But there are a number of people, a lot of the same people that were in favor of Measure M. If you remember, Measure M came out on the ballot, and that the no on M, we were able to preserve Legacy Park against development. Those are the same people, by the way, that were supporting the development of that legacy, the old chili cook-off site that were there. So, I would suggest that whoever is against this, they're the same people that were in favor of that development.
But there's nothing prohibiting you from actually confronting those opposed to it and say why. I mean, it's funny, I'm sitting in this room and I'm used to a bunch of screaming, kids. I have a second grader, and I think about the future of this place. And, I love this town. I've spent most of my life here, not necessarily living here, but, and when I think about, we could lose that, and yet our city council who's supposed to protect us is not doing that, and why?
Well, to be quite honest,
they have to come out with a reason.
yeah, to be quite honest, I don't want to have to put up Measure R on the ballot, and the only reason we are doing it with the help of all of you citizens is because we don't have that kind of confidence that we have in the city council doing the right thing. Here's an interesting thing, I'm gonna point this out because I find this interesting, and then as soon as I finish, there is already in existence on the books right now in Malibu a law that says that voters have a right to decide on development. Now, for those of you who don't remember, there were two initiatives, and what year was this in, John, do you remember?
03.
In 03. There were two measures put on the ballot. There was Measure P and Measure N. Measure P basically said that voters had the right to determine any development over 25,000 square feet. It's almost the same as this initiative. This one's 20, that was 25. And it passed. It passed. But when it was getting approved for the ballot, there was another initiative that was put on the ballot, and that was Measure N. And Measure N said that voters had a right to weigh in and vote on any development, any new development over 30 acres. Well, first of all, there is no plot of land over 30 acres right for development. But the thing that was tricky about that is there was a little poison pill in that initiative, and that said that since there are these two initiatives on the ballot, whichever one gets the most votes will supersede the other. So turned out that N got the most votes and P was knocked out. So the point is, this is not a new thing, the idea of giving voters the right to approve new development. As a matter of fact, Del Mar, a smaller community than ours, has that. They have a law that says anything over 11,500 square feet can be, has to be voted on by the voters. So it's not a new thing, we didn't think this up. Not only did we think it up for Del Mar, I mean, they had it, but it was already here in Malibu, so it's not a new idea. Yeah, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, first, let me thank you for your leadership on this issue. I totally appreciate it. And then we'll put together that email I got the other day, bravo.
Which one was that?
Well, that's the one that dealt with impartiality.
Oh, yes, that was my favorite.
Now, speaking of that issue, you were identifying the city council as having the right to take positions on any matter that comes before the city.
That's true.
I'm not quite certain that the city attorney falls in that same category. And particularly, the most upsetting thing that was contained in your email was the relationship between a former mayor and the current city attorney.
Yes, that's Sharon Borowski you're talking about.
Oh, is that who we were speaking about? I swore a long time ago her name would never pass my lips.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're just in full disclosure, that's,
All right, fine.
Sharon Borowski.
Is there any plan, please tell me yes, down the road where we can address her right to serve as city attorney? Because I feel that over the years, she's just demonstrated time and again a partisanship that is just not fitting for that particular office.
Well, you may be very right about that, and I can tell you that once we pass Measure R, there's a lot that needs to be done here in Malibu, and one of the things is to make the city officials, accountable to the public and not accountable to themselves.
Can I weigh in a little bit on that? Those of you who have seen the official impartial analysis that she put together. Well, I will be talking later, not tonight, about the fact that it is not official, it is not impartial, and it's a flawed analysis. More to come.
Well, the interesting thing about the impartial analysis, and John, I'll talk to him one second, is that, when you put an initiative on a ballot, they have what they call the question, there's a title and summary that you read when you go into your voting booth, and it describes, in a little paragraph, what's in the initiative, they're assuming that hopefully you read the initiative, but it'll tell you what it is, so you have an understanding of what you're voting for. There was a number of communications between the city attorney and the No on R campaign in terms of how they were going to word that, which is really inappropriate, and we never got any kind of a chance to weigh in on how that was going to be worded. So there's a lot of those kinds of things that really has to be addressed. I mean, I've been involved in national politics and state politics and local things. This is pretty amazing what I've seen here. I mean, it's quite astounding to me, to be honest with you. But let me talk to John, and then I'm going to go to, quick little of something, and then John.
I just wanted to let you know that one of the first things the new board of the Malibu Democratic Club did was to vote Sharon Borowski off.
That's okay. All right, whatever. I'm going to ask, John Densmore has got his hand up, and I want to just say John came in, John used to be with a great group called The Doors, which I used to go see all the time when they played at the Kaleidoscope and they played on Whiskey, and he came in, when we were making Spinal Tap, and I thought, no, I can't have a guy who's an actual, real, we have all these fake musicians, he's a real guy who actually does what we were making fun of. Anyway, John.
Thank you. I'm confused, Rob. I thought Steve Soboroff was going to be here tonight, and the two of you were going to. What's going on with the debate?
Okay, well, he's asking about Steve Soboroff and the debate, and when we finally got this on the ballot, and that was a tricky little thing too, to be honest with you, because there was a technicality in the petition. It's supposed to say special election, and we left those words special election off. So they were trying to push this thing to 2016, which would have been a nightmare, because then the sewer's off and running, but we eventually got them to agree to put it on the ballot in 2014. But once that happened, the city council said, we'd like to have a debate, you know, and I said, great, let's debate, I'm game. They said, well, then they said, well, we could do it right here at the city council room or whatever. And then but I didn't know who I was debating, because at that time I didn't know who the other side was. I just knew there was people who didn't like it, but I didn't know who that was. I didn't know who the person was. So I run into Lou Lamont, who's one of our council members, and I said, I was at the chili cook-off this year, and I said, he says to me, so come on, let's work out the thing for a debate. I said, Lou, I'm happy to debate. I don't know who's the person, who do I debate? Who's the person? So I said, I know that I'm putting in money here on this side. Who's the others? Who's chairing? Who's the campaign guy on the other side? And so he wouldn't say, he didn't know. And then it came out, we found out it was Steve Soboroff was funding the other side. So I said, okay, so I'll debate Steve Soboroff. And so the next thing we hear is Steve Soboroff wants me to debate Jeff Jennings. And so I went, well, wait a minute, Jeff Jennings, is he the other, you know, I understand he may be against it, but I want to debate the guy that's coming after me and saying things like, you know, who is this guy, you know, doesn't live here full-time and he's a Hollywood guy and he's telling us how to live. And I said, you're gonna attack me like that, I wanna know who the guy is on the other side that I can talk to. So finally it came out, it was Steve Soboroff, and so I said, Steve, let's do it. And so he said, I'll do a debate, but I want Jeff Jennings there with me, and you can pick anybody you want to come with you. And I said, well, that's not a debate. I mean, you know, like, you know, if Muhammad Ali goes in the ring, he doesn't have Angelo Dundee in there with him. I mean, you know, you basically go in and you debate me, and that's the way it works. So he finally backed off of that thing. And then yesterday, we talked about, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. We talked about a debate. No, he said he wanted to do the debate. I said, okay. So I called him yesterday, and I said, okay, let's do the debate. And he said, okay, but here's what I want. And he said, I want to debate you, just you and me, and this guy Dave Bryan, who's a good guy. He's a news guy at KCAL, and I've known him and actually suggested him. We both independently suggested Dave Bryan. And so I said, yeah, he could be a moderator, that'd be good. And then he said, but we can't. I said, well, let's pick a venue. Let's find a good venue where we can hold it and have all the citizens of Malibu come and listen to the two of us. He says, I don't want anybody there. I don't want anybody there. I said, what do you mean you don't want anybody? He said, I just want you. He says, I don't care where we do it. It could be in your living room. He says, it's just you and me in a room with Dave Bryan. So I said, yeah, but that's weird because, I mean, you got all the big people in Malibu and they want to hear what we're going to say. And he said, yeah, but we could stream it, you know, we'll put it on the internet or, you know, YouTube or something. I said, well, let me think about this. I mean, I'm happy to do it, but I don't know if that's the most effective way. And I think he was saying, I don't want people yelling and screaming. I said, you know, they'll be decent, you know, they'll sit, you know, what are they gonna do, you know? I mean, jump up on the stage and grab you? I mean, you know, they're gonna be like that. It'll be, you know, it'll be...
Rob, a question over here.
Wait a minute. Oh, so anyway, we're now trying to figure it out, what room we're gonna be in or something, or stream it to the internet or something, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't sound like the best way to debate. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I keep hearing people say that the bill is written in such a way that there are problems with it and there are gonna be lawsuits and the city of Malibu is gonna be in dire straits and trouble, having to defend itself from all these lawsuits. And so I'd like to know, is the measure really watertight, and how much ground do these naysayers really have to stand on?
That's a really good question. First of all, like I said, there is already a measure that has been enacted into law that says that voters can have a right to vote on new developments. So, and there's never been any lawsuits for that. But that's not to say you know, there's one thing to sue somebody, and there's another thing to have grounds for a lawsuit. Anybody can sue anybody, but you have to have a reason to sue. And so it is a scare tactic to say there's gonna be lawsuits, because if Steve Soboroff says, I'm gonna bring a lawsuit, he's already saying he's gonna bring a lawsuit, and that's done as a scare tactic. But even the city attorney said she would have no problem defending this, because it doesn't constitute a taking. The best constitutional lawyer in the state, who I've worked with on many occasions, has vetted this thing, and like I say, that doesn't mean they can't sue. I mean, they sued, when I did Prop 10, the tobacco industry sued me and to try to undo that, and they lost badly. So there's no reason to say that there won't be, you know, you don't know if there's a lawsuit, but if there has to be a reason. And so if this passes, I would be really hard pressed to see what basis they would file a lawsuit on, because even City Attorney Christy Hogan says this does not constitute a taking, because there is a law that's exactly the same law in Del Mar, and nobody is sued there. And in terms of formula retail ordinance, there's, I don't know, 15 or 16 of these. How many of them are around?
Let me just say, now.
Just tell me how many you can say.
Malibu has formula ordinance.
Yeah, well, Malibu has formula ordinance, but I mean, it's been done, 70, there's 70 cities around the state that have, or country that have that. So, I mean, you know, it's one thing to say you're gonna sue, it's another thing to have a basis for a lawsuit, and we don't believe there's any basis for a lawsuit here. Yeah.
Hey, Ron, I want to take a minute, I'm Jackie Tomlinson, as a financial advisor, I want to take a minute. People are all saying, well, why does city council, not city council, why do people who work for the city, like the city attorney, the city manager, why is it that they seem to want more development? And
I can't answer that
I
question.
can answer it.
Yeah, go ahead, answer it.
Yeah.
Wait, let me you take a microphone, because if you have the reason for why they want more development, I'd love to hear it.
All over the money.
Yeah.
Money and power.
Okay, here's the deal. First of all, we know that do we know anybody who works for the city who actually lives in the city?
I do.
Okay, one? Okay. And there's a lot of people over there. If you've been to our city hall, it's really large for a city this size. Okay, is that better, Carol? Okay, thank you. Okay, here's how it works. The more money that is raised from taxes, the higher that they can raise that property value. So if I've got a blank piece of land, it's worth, say, $1 million. Now, if I build a business on it or I build a home on it, then it goes up to $5, $10, $15 million. That raises the tax base. More money comes in. A large percentage of that comes directly back to the city, as well as sales taxes that are created. Now, why do people who work for the city care about that? Well, that's where they get their salaries. That's where they get to hire more people to do their jobs.
Yeah. Well, there's another part to all this, and that is, at a certain point, the city becomes non-livable. And so I would suggest that, you know, even for real estate people, you know, the property values will go up at a certain point when a place delivers services, as Malibu does, and I think we're running a $16 million surplus right now. But at a certain point, if you have overdevelopment, I think it tends to bring property values down, because the place becomes unlivable. When you can't turn on Webb Way or Cross Creek, or you can't make it up the PCH and you're stopped 3 or 4 traffic lights at each place, I think you then have a city that becomes unlivable, and that tends to drive property values down, I would think. But that's me. Yeah.
Can you address the theft of all our signs?
Well, she was talking about the theft of our Yes on Our signs. Well, we had placed a lot of Yes on Our signs around town, and the city gave an order. This was done by the city to go and collect these signs, and they picked up 70 signs and just took them. A lot of times walking on people's private property and removing the signs. And initially we thought, well, it's just, you know, campaign hijinks, you know, a lot of times that happens in campaigns. People, you know, steal a sign, they do this. It turns out it was ordered by the city. The city ordered it, and we don't know who gave the order for that. We don't have the answer to that. But what happened was, when we found out, they returned all 70 of those signs to us, and 70 what? 78 signs, and we put them back up. But that was a scary thing. I mean, you know, like I say, if it's one thing, if it's campaign pranks, and you know, you get that. But when it's an order given by the city manager to go and hiring a thing to go and collect all these signs, that was pretty disturbing. And those of you who were at the city council meeting the other day, it was pretty upsetting, and nobody gave us an answer. We never got an answer as to who ordered that.
But it's our constitutional right.
Well, we are trying to follow up. We've asked for, we've asked for all the emails on all public records relating to Measure R. So far they haven't, we've seen some of them, the ones we've printed, but we haven't seen them all. Yeah.
If the issue passes and the voters are allowed to vote on what development they really don't want, how does the vote work to determine if it fails the last signal? Is it 50%?
Yeah.
5%?
Yeah, he's asking about how it would work in terms of the voters weighing in. It's the same as any measure. You'd have to get 50% plus one in order for it to pass. So, I mean, listen, if you like the idea of a Whole Foods and the park thing that Steve Sobroff says he is going to plan, then you can vote for that. That's okay. But, you know, just to give you an example, like the Whole Foods is, that whole area is about 260,000 square feet. And the way it works, I don't know if you guys know, FAR, do you know what that is? Fair Floor Area Ratio. There's a law in place already, and our initiative doesn't touch that at all. It's exactly the same. You're allowed a 0.15, 15% of a piece of land is allowed for commercial use. It can go up to 20% if you put in some amenities that the city wants, like a park or a ball field or something like that.
Let's have two more
All right,
questions.
am I getting too far in the weeds on this here?
And let me ask one of those questions.
Yeah.
Aren't some properties exempt from Measure R?
Yeah, the properties that are exempt are any essential services, supermarkets, movie theaters, medical facilities, like the urgent care is exempted, pharmacies, anything like that is exempt.
How does it work with the chain stores? There was some legislation or people trying to prevent all the, like having forked subways in Malibu.
Yeah, well, our initiative limits chain stores on new developments to no more than 30%. So no new development can have more than 30%. Now, to be honest, the existing developments, the Malibu Country Mart, the Lumberyard, Malibu Village, Malibu Courtyard, all those areas already have over 30%. So we're not going to be able to stop that. I mean, that's already happened. But going forward in new developments, we want to keep it down to 30%, and also protect the small businesses in the existing shopping centers.
I think we have a lot more questions, but
But
I
we
think
can
that's
talk
enough.
individually afterwards if you
Yeah,
want.
please come up and ask the questions afterwards.
Huh?
That's fine,
Oh.
you can go further.
Oh, I'm happy to be here all night.
I didn't want to put him on the spot for him. It's been going for almost an hour now. So.
All right, we'll go. But there's a lot of questions. I see a lot of people with questions. Let's go over here.
Hi, I'm 100% behind this initiative, but one of the interesting accusations, I suppose, on the other side that I would like to hear a response to is the accusation that the initiative is discriminatory to, I forget what they used the word discrimination between the new development and the old development. Do we ever have a break?
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about. The old developments, like I say, are already over 30% chain stores. And, we're not here to try to destroy businesses. I mean, these businesses already exist. So they're grandfathered in. I mean, if there are chain stores there, we're not gonna say you gotta take rid of a chain store. Lumberyard's got 60% chain stores. We're gonna say you gotta get rid of them. We can't do that. We're not anti-business. We just wanna protect the land that's left. So there is a difference between what happens at the existing developments and the future developments. Yeah, back there.
On a related point,
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, ladies first.
on a related point, if it's an existing shopping center that's over 30% chain stores, reason is going out, to say Blockbuster was there. At that point, is that space, because the center is over 30%, does that space have to be replaced with a non-chain, entity?
Yeah, what we've discovered in doing the research on the existing centers and how they work is that most of the local businesses, virtually all of them, I mean, literally all, are under 1,400 square feet. So anything under 1,400 square feet is definitely protected for small businesses. 1,400 to 5,000, there can be accommodations for chains. If there is, for instance, I don't know, I'm just using, Chipotle, and another Chipotle wants to come in or something, it's the same, you don't change it. If you're gonna change, a store, put a new store in there, then it has to fit within those certain prescription. You can't then, because it is over 30% already, unless you're grandfathered in, or unless you fit in within that 1,400 to 5,000, you can't just put in a chain store.
Rob,
Yeah.
that is not true. Under section 6 of this.
We want questions, not speeches.
The question is.
Let him go ahead.
Isn't it true?
Yeah.
That if any chain store wants to come into an existing space in an existing shopping center, and that space is between 1,400 and 5,000 square feet, no conditional use permit is required?
No, if it's a new chain store,
No,
if it's a
you're
new
not
chain.
reading your own ordinance.
You're not
You
reading
read
it
your
properly.
own ordinance.
No, you should read it a little bit more carefully.
Mr. Vail is an attorney, perhaps he should read it and tell us what he thinks it says.
I think we've heard enough from you, Mr. Visacco.
Thank you so much.
I know you've been saying that, and I know you've written it in many places, but the fact is, a CUP for a new chain store has to be issued.
It's exempt.
1,400 to 5,000 square feet is exempt for chain stores.
Right. Any new chain store in the existing centers, if you're going into a space that is existing as 1,400 to 5,000 square feet, it is exempt.
Right, but the point is, yes, it is exempt, you're exactly right. But the point is, no, it is exempt, but the point is that we know, based on all the surveys that we've done, there are very few, or basically none, small businesses that go into those size spaces because they don't have the money to afford the rent. So we're saying to the existing owners of these centers, you can keep your business. We're not going to try to destroy your business. And the fact is that there hasn't been one single owner of any shopping center that's come out against this initiative.
Any other questions? We need to we're going to wrap it up. Other questions, please? Any other questions? One over there.
I have a question.
Yes.
I've been told.
Oh, and by the way, one other thing. Wouldn't they be happy to have this thing again? If they could have all the chain stores they wanted? Wouldn't they
That's why
be?
they're not opposing it.
Well, then vote for it.
Then vote for it.
Yeah, well, vote for it.
Then vote for it. It sounds great. Vote for it.
You guys want chain stores.
No, I want chain stores. That's what we want.
3% chain stores.
83%. You can keep saying 83% all you want, but there's no way you get to 83% unless everybody leaves these developments and then you start putting them back in. The scenario that you have, that 83%, is so far-fetched, it's like off the charts. And that's, again, your impartial analyst, Christy Hogan. Yeah.
So I've been told that should Proposition R pass and a 20,000 plus square foot specific plan be approved by the voters, at that point, the municipal ordinances, the zoning ordinances, and that do not apply anymore. Therefore, the core area ratio does not apply.
No, that's not true. This is totally in keeping with all existing ordinances and all rules and laws that are on the
So it
books.
doesn't suspend any of
No, doesn't suspend anything. We still have the .15 FAR that can go up to .20, just like it is on the books now.
Okay.
It just means we get
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm paying, we're paying in Calabasas and Malibu meetup on Saturday. I can see it all, I drive past it all. If you don't vote for this, take a drive down Calabasas and take a look at what's gonna happen to you. Try to drive from the Commons to the freeway and see what happens to you on Calabasas Road. We do not, Calabasas, the city of Calabasas has been taken over, lock, stock, and barrel by developers, and you know the guys.
And the Kardashians.
You need to protect yourself.
I have a question about
Okay,
the campaign.
one more
finance.
question, finally one more question, please, we kept it way too long.
I have a question about the campaign and the finances for both sides.
Yeah.
Yes and the no.
Yeah.
My question is, are you filing reports, and can we find out, for example,
Yeah.
if the no people are paying Sharon Borofsky to run that campaign?
No, you can't ever find that out. I don't think you can find that out. All you can do is find out who donated to the campaign, and that is a finance law that you have to announce, and we just put our list of all the people who have donated, and they put their list. All you can do is find out who donated to the campaign. You don't know what they've done with that money. All you know is that that person donated to the campaign. All right.
Give him a big hand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I'm really thrilled with the turnout, and I think it shows how much everybody cares about Malibu. There's just one other thing I wanted to announce, and that is that the Board of Directors of the Malibu Democratic Club has voted to favor a resolution favoring Measure R. And this just happened last week after some of the people who had been out of town came back. And so I thought I should announce that. Thank you very much, everybody.